Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. And tonight it's our legend segment. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a true legend on with us tonight. One of Jacksonville, Florida's finest athletes of all time. One of University of Florida's finest athletes. You know, one of the GOATs, in my opinion. Terry Lecount, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Bobby. It's good to be here.
My
good to be
pleasure.
alive.
Amen. Amen. My pleasure. Well, man, listen. You know, you and I got a chance to talk a couple weeks ago, and we talked about so many different things. But I just want to get started with you because Jacksonville is so rich in athletic talent. Hands down, one of the best cities in the whole state of Florida when it comes to athletes. So for you, how did you get started in sports? Was it a family thing? Or was it just the streets, the culture of Jacksonville that sucked you into playing athletics?
Well, I don't really think it was, the city of Jacksonville. It was a neighborhood. I grew up on a street that everybody had at least 5 siblings in the neighborhood on the street. And everybody played kickball. Everybody played softball. Baseball was it. But just everybody just played ball once they got out of school.
Right.
And as far as, playing sports, it started from the age of 7. And we had a park by the name of Scott Park that was right up the street. So everybody that was in the neighborhood on the northwest side of town went up to this park and played baseball. Not football. Played baseball.
Wow. Okay.
Everybody started with baseball. And that's another story with itself, but it started off with baseball.
That's amazing. So you were in 1978, you were drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in the 78 NFL draft to play wide receiver. Your background in college and in high school, you were a quarterback. So when you got drafted, were you expected to play? Did you expect to play quarterback, or you just looking to get drafted?
I was one of the black quarterbacks that wasn't, and I'm gonna say wasn't thinking about playing quarterback in professional football.
Okay, right.
So
right.
we can put that to rest. I was not one of those guys that said I want to be a professional quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
The strangest thing, the word they use now, Bobby, they use the word athletic. We hear that all the time.
Right.
And I never played at the University of Florida like I played at Raines High School. I never played a position multiple times. Meaning my sophomore year, I was a quarterback, but I played safety after Florida State bombed us.
Oh wow! Okay.
They took me from quarterback. and put me in the safety.
Okay.
My junior year, that's when I played safety. My sophomore year, I played wide receiver with West Channel.
Oh wow! Okay.
I didn't play quarterback. I didn't play quarterback until my senior year.
Really?
So when I think about the guys that's playing now, if I had the opportunity to play wide receiver for a long period of time, no matter, I don't really know what would have happened.
Absolutely.
But because I was athletic and was able to do everything else, it became easy for me to play in other positions.
Right. And that's the thing. You were a great athlete. And so, we had this conversation. It was so funny, right? Because I couldn't wait to ask you this question. And I'm going to start with that right now. We're going to go back to high school, ladies and gentlemen, because when I was a kid, when I was just a 10th grader at Atlantic High School in Delray Beach, I qualified for the state track meet in the sprint medley. Not in individual race, but in the sprint medley. But stories were being told at the track meet. And the year before, you ran the quarter, the 440-yard dash back in the old days. That's what we call it, right?
And 440-yard dash, yeah.
440-yard dash. And the rumor was this guy, Terry Lecount, got in the blocks When they shot the gun, he fell flat on his face. He got up, he stumbled and fell again, and got up, ran the whole field down, and won the state title in the quarter. So I thought to myself, I said, you know, people have been telling that story so long, it's probably not true. So would you explain that whole deal to us, man? Because this is one of the greatest stories of all time.
Well, before I tell you the story, I want you to tell me who told you the story.
Well, at the track meet, so, I remember at the track meet, you know, for the first time, you know, we're far away from home, and now all the guys from Palm Beach County, we're like brothers now, right? We're not enemies anymore, and you know,
right.
That particular year, Mac Tier had just broke the world's record in the 100-yard dash. I was at that meet, watching that.
Correct.
And then the next day, getting ready to see James Brown and Mike Robinson run, right? And so I was kind of intimidated. And then they start telling your story.
Correct.
You know, they start telling the story about this guy last year, man, fell down twice and ran the field down. And so I'm going like, is that really true? Maybe he fell once, you know? So that's where I heard it for the first time. That the next year, you know, everybody's talking about track and field in the stands, and that came up.
Well, it's the reason I asked. I wanted to know the people, and it feels good to hear from James Brown and Mike Robinson, because those guys was 100-meter guys and the 200-meter guys.
That's right.
But to get into what happened, I got to go a year before. The year before, I won the state.
Okay.
As a junior, and by surprise, not a shocker, but surprised a lot of people. And I remember my coach is telling me, he says, Lecount, you got lane 6 your junior year, and there's 3 other guys that's behind you that has ran faster.
Right.
He says, but guess what? They haven't ran against you yet. And you know, you hear about the coaches. Coaches motivate you and say things.
Absolutely.
And so I'm in lane 6 my junior year, and Bobby, I was the guy that ran the quarter. You know, everybody got techniques of what you're supposed to do. Right. I made you give up on the back straight.
Wow.
That's how I ran it. I ran it full speed. And so once I got to the 330 and realized I didn't see anybody my junior year.
Wow.
Realized I didn't see nobody.
Right.
I knew it was mine. And I became state champ my junior year.
That's awesome, man.
To get into my senior year though, I was like Mike Robinson. I was like James Brown.
Right.
So when we go to track meets, everybody go, that's the guy that runs the 400.
Right, exactly.
That's the guy that runs the 440. Because the 100 and the 200 has always been the race.
Right.
And nobody really was running. They was running the 400 for points.
Right.
But no, this guy runs the 400.
400, right. I'm with you.
So I went in my senior year just destroying everybody. A type of confidence, not cocky, but a type of confidence. When I walked on the track, I can see the fear.
The fear in people.
That's the guy that runs the 400.
Yes.
So when I get into the state block, my senior year, state championship, I'm thinking about one thing: Larry Black. Larry Black is out of Miami. Okay. And he has a state record. Oh, wow. And the state record at that time was like 46.8. Wow. And I was running 46.5 and 46.3 in splits. Right. And 47.1s in open quarter. Wow. And the gun goes off. I come out the block, but the block comes out of the hole. The whole block comes out. Wow. And when the whole block comes out, after I fell twice. Wow. And then the competitive part of me said, just go ahead and finish the race. They should have blown the whistle because once the blocks comes out, that's an illegal block. It should not come out of the track.
Right.
And it
right.
did. But they didn't blow the whistle. So I just got up and started running.
Wow.
And some friends of yours was in that race. Kevin is the twin from
the Johnson
twin that went to Florida State.
Keith and Kevin, that's right.
They was one of them was in the race.
Okay.
And I was just running.
Right.
And once I realized I can, this is one of the few times I can hear the crowd. The crowd is cheering.
Right.
Because this guy's doing something that nobody's really never done before. Wow. And when I talked to you a few weeks ago about, I was going to tell you the story. I should have never thought about trying to break no record.
Okay.
I should have just went out and just ran.
Right, exactly.
And my thing was just ran like I ran all year.
Right.
But my thing was I wanted that record. I wanted that record.
That's cool.
That's a story that follows me. NFL doesn't really matter. But everybody they'll bring up track and field and they'll bring that up and people go, no, he didn't do that. And they go, yeah, he did.
Well, I had to find out myself. I said, man, I gotta ask this guy. We competed against each other in football, but I never knew you, doing competition. Like, of course, you can't ask questions like that, but I always knew that about you. I go, man, that had to be the most phenomenal event in track in Florida State high school track history. Because that's almost impossible, to get up like that. And for guys who ran track, who understand how tough it is to run the quarter.
Right.
Man, that quarter is no joke. I always say this, Terry, the quarter is a man's race. It's not for the faint of heart.
It's a man's race.
It's a man's race. And
it's not. It's a man's race.
That's right. And you're not going to win it because you're fast. You got to have heart.
No.
You got to have heart.
Yeah.
And so it's tough. And I know how tough it is. And so when I heard that, man, I go, wow, that's amazing. I used to dodge in practice. Every time my coach said we're going to run quarters, I used to do everything I could to dodge it, right? Because it's such a tough event. And you had to give your all to it. You had to give your all to it. So that's amazing, man. So it's true. So all right. So here's what I want to do. I want to ask you some questions because your high school is a special school, right? I'm gonna just call out some names, and I want you to tell me what you think about these guys, right? They all went to Jacksonville Reigns except one.
Okay.
All right. Of course, Kenny Burrow.
Okay. Kenny Burroughs was our very first Reigns High School legend. Kenny Burroughs came to Reigns in 1965, and he was a quarterback at Reigns High School. The quarterback, he was 6'5". So he was one of the few guys that I was able to see play in high school.
Okay. Special. He was special. All right.
He was also a track guy.
Oh, was he? You know what?
He also ran track.
You can tell because of his form of running, the way he ran. He had good form. He had good knee lift. Even when he ran routes, he had good knee lifts, right? And so he ran
track.
Yeah. So what about his buddy Harold Carmichael?
The stranger thing about that, Bobby, when you brought up Reigns High School, Harold Carmichael came after Kenny.
Wow.
And he was a quarterback in high school. And he was 6'8".
6'8", man, monster.
So he didn't pursue track, but he was on one of the best basketball teams in Reigns High School history.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, he was
a basketball player.
Yeah, he was a special man.
Yes.
You know, when you think about, I know for me, I'm 5'11". When I came in the league, Terry, I was only 155 pounds. I was a little guy, man. And my rookie year, we played the Eagles up in Philadelphia on Monday night. And here's this monster. He's really too big to be a tight end, to be honest with you, right?
Right, right.
He's playing out wide, right? And so I figured out early what was his gift on the football field. And really, it was his size. You can cover him. You got inside technique. You break on the ball. Jaworski throws the ball to the outside. It's a completion. He was so long, you know, he can always get the ball. All they had to do is throw it away from you. Right. You can have him covered, and he's still going to make the catch. And so I was so thankful that he was finally inducted into the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, because he deserved it. He deserved it.
Well, yes. That's good.
Hands down. So, okay, what about this guy? This is one of my guys right here, Jackie Flowers.
Jackie Flowers was my tight end when he was a 10th grader.
He was a 10th grader,
and Jackie Flower tells me the story today. Matter of fact, he just texted me not too long ago.
Did he?
And he says that when he came as a 10th grader, he didn't play JV. I was a senior, and he was my second team tight end.
Wow.
And I think he was doing something one day. He was doing something one day in practice, and I was the captain. And I walked up and I said, "Young blood, we don't do that here."
We don't do that, right?
And if you know Jackie, if anybody knows Jackie, and it's coming from me, but you got to know Jackie. And he said, he looked at me. He says, "Man, the captain has spoken." So from then on, I've been his mentor. He said he always bring it up. He said, "Man, you walked up to me and said, hey man, we don't do that here. We don't do that here." But Jackie was a track guy also. So Jackie ran the 400.
Right.
He also was one of the best athletes because he can do everything. He threw the shot put and the discus for us. But the thing that we liked about Jackie on the football field, he was physical.
Oh, absolutely.
He was really physical.
Well, really physical. You know, it's amazing. I really believe, you know, at Florida State, the competition we had in practice, right? Because we used to compete. And so I had to guard Jackie every day for 3 years, right?
Okay.
And Sam Platt, you know, Sam Platt, who came from Wilson in Jacksonville, was a running back in high school, but he came and played wide receiver for us his first 3 years. And then moving back to the he was a gifted athlete. They moved him back our senior year, and he broke records at the running back spot. But Jackie was, I always say Jackie Flowers was a mirror of Otis Taylor.
Yeah.
And you know, Otis
Taylor
was
physical.
He's physical. Otis Taylor was a real deal. All right. So I got this other guy. He's a little younger than you. Matter of fact, he's in my class. His name in 1977 was Calvin Riley. Now his name is Calvin Muhammad.
Calvin Muhammad.
Tell me about that guy.
Calvin Muhammad was the next Terry Lecount. And what I mean by that, Kevin Muhammad was in the band. And when I talked to Kevin, he told me from band practice, he watched me run in a meet. And he said he wanted to run track. And that's how he started running track. Now, we could have won maybe a couple of state track meets if he would have ran when I ran. He waited until I left. And I always tease him about that. I said, man, you could have been mastering the 200, but you waited until I left. Kevin was probably the person that they would say, compared to me, one of the best sprinters in Rains High School. That's going past Kenny Burroughs. When I said the sprinters, you got the 200 and 100. I was strictly 400. I ran the 100 and 200 to get points in a meet. And most of the time I would win it. But Kevin Rayleigh, better known as Muhammad, was
Yes.
probably the best 200 runner in range history.
I tell you what, he was beautiful. I mean, we're in the same class, and I'm telling you, man, he was a monster, strong, you know,
Strong.
and gifted. And so I had a chance to
Yes.
see him run. Thank God that I was running 3A instead of 4A. So I got a chance our senior year, him and a guy named Cyril Wyatt from Orlando.
Oh, I remember those guys.
Orlando Oak Ridge. Him and
Right.
Calvin tied up. Calvin beat him in the 200, and they finished like a photo finish in the 100, and he edged Calvin out in the 100, right?
Right.
But
Right.
Calvin Riley, Calvin Muhammad was a great sprinter.
Great sprinter.
So here's the last question about Jacksonville, right? Okay. You grew up in a city that produced the fastest human of all time. I don't care what nobody say. Guy by the name of Bob Hayes, right?
Correct.
So what was it like, you know, having that legacy in the city of Jacksonville when you guys were running? Because you guys, you know, like I said, Rains High School was a dominant track program. But then when you have a guy like that before you guys, did that inspire you in any kind of way?
Well, see, Bob Hayes was our very first superstar out of Jacksonville.
Yes.
And when you say Jacksonville, I'm gonna cut it down for you a little bit. Bob Hayes was on the east side of town, which is down there by the stadium.
Okay.
Most of the guys that you're bringing up that we perform, we're in this small neighborhood. But everybody from the Kenny Burrows, the Harold Carmichaels, the Kevin Muhammad's, the Terry Lecount, the Jackie Flowers, the Leo Shepherds, the Dawkins, we all come out the same neighborhood.
Okay, wow.
Bob Hayes was on east side.
Okay.
And when I say on the east side, everybody in Jacksonville was a Dallas Cowboy fan.
Absolutely.
Except for me.
Really?
And the reason I wasn't a Cowboy fan,
right.
only reason I wasn't a Cowboy fan, I had a cousin that played for the Green Bay Packers with Vince Lombardi.
Okay.
Hall of Fame safety by the name of Willie Woods.
What? That's
so I was always pulling. That's my cousin. So I was my first cousin. So I was always pulling for Green Bay. Green Bay always beat Dallas during that time. But Bullet Bob Hayes is there would be no athlete to ever come out of Jacksonville to do the things that he had done.
Right.
He
was a special man.
He ran time when racism was deep. Absolutely. And you had to kind of be there to be a part of that. Right. He was right in the middle of that. Exactly. I speak out a lot to just fan base. You know, Jacksonville still haven't done him due justice. Yeah. You know, and we know where that come from, but they still. I mean, they have the Bob Hayes track meet. They have a little bit of this here, but this guy, just like the NFL, took so long to put him in the Hall of Fame after he passed away.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I got to tell you, I was a Bob Hayes fan as a kid. Now, you know, I'm from South Florida. I'm from Delray, down there in Palm Beach County, and I love Bob Hayes, and I love Roger Staubach because he was one of the few quarterbacks in the league that looked like me as a quarterback. Because when I was a kid, Terry, I played quarterback as well, all through high school, and I got the opportunity to see Don Gaffney play. I know he was an inspiration probably to you as well, and then I got a chance to see you up close in person, that last year, and I'm going like, man, and I always wondered, and I was just like you. The good thing about me was the fact that, and it was because when I was dreaming as a kid to play football, I always saw myself with the ball in my hand, right? And so, but I played both ways in high school. I played quarterback, I played safety. But my senior year, I just blew up. I had like 7 picks. I had 6 for touchdowns. So if I touched it, I'm out, right? And so everybody recruited me to do that. Of course, it wasn't the right time for us to play quarterback. We were not going to get that opportunity,
correct,
especially in the South. But seeing
Right.
Don play, because I got a chance to see Don play on TV, I'm thinking I got a chance, right? But when it came down to recruiting me, now Florida did recruit me, and they recruited me as a quarterback, but they were not going to let me play quarterback. And so,
Right.
so I found out about that. And so after that, I said, well, I'm not going to Florida. And so if I'm going to play DB, I'm going to follow Bobby Jackson and Ira Joe Hunter, you know, because they got a senior group.
Right.
And maybe by the time I'm a sophomore, you know, I can get into action.
Right.
And that's exactly what
There
happened.
you go.
And but so when we talk about college, right? So you had to have one of the best classes in the history of the University of Florida. You had to be in one of the best classes because just your backfield alone on offense, your senior year, you know, y'all ran the wishbone, right? So
Yes.
you were at quarterback. We had Earl Carr at fullback, right? Is that right? Who's the fullback on that team?
Correct.
Carr.
Correct.
And then you had Willie Wilder, one of Haynes' finest.
You had Earl Carr.
You had Earl Carr, Tony Green,
right.
And you had Wes Chandler out wide. I mean,
Tony
good
Green.
God. That's a lot of firepower right there, man. So talk about your guys, man, if you would.
Right. We had the best part about that particular team when we became seniors, what most people don't realize, during the time me and you played, Bobby, you didn't really, if you played college football and played as a sophomore, you was doing something.
Right.
Now they play all the time. You know, they come in as freshmen, they get a chance to play. Sophomores, they pretty much start. Well, during that time, all these guys you're talking about now played as sophomores.
Wow.
We played as a sophomore team. We was on the field. We spent 60% of the time on the field. So we wasn't like nobody. Right. So we had all this experience. We were 3-year starters. You left out the Derek Gaffney. Derek Gaffney got redshirt, so he had another year.
And Warren Gaffney.
So we all played together. Warren and we all played together. And so by the time we became a senior, then it was dangerous, but it wasn't enough balls. And what I mean by that, you had me at quarterback, but I never had a full year at quarterback.
Okay.
And I just think about if I'd had a 2 years at quarterback, what it would have been like.
Right. Exactly.
You had All-American Wes Chandler, you had Tony Green, you had Earl Carr, you had Willie Wilder, you had Derek Gaffney. Yes. We had Scott Hutchinson out of Orlando that was the nose guard.
That's right.
So we had a team that played together, that played as sophomores.
Man, that's
we had more people to go in the NFL on that team than anybody in Florida history, even after the teams that won the national title.
Wow.
And we was a team that they really didn't talk about a whole lot.
Right.
Because we didn't win an SEC.
Right. But I can tell you firsthand, I played, you know, over the course of my time at Florida State, there was never a team like that one. Your senior year, you know, because I mean, Florida always had talent, but nothing like that, you know. And I remember, you know, of course, Chris Collinsworth was a big receiver. You had James Jones playing, you know, fullback, and you know, and Spencer Jackson, my homeboy from Delray, was a receiver there.
Right.
And, Tyrone Young was playing a wide receiver then.
Tyrone Young.
Yep. And then my buddies, I had 3 buddies on that team that I played in the high school all-star game with: David Galloway, Doc Lucky from Fort Pierce, and also David Little. David Little's my boy, right? God rest his soul. But those were my boys. And so, but never a team like your team. Never.
Yeah.
Y'all were special.
Yeah. Florida had when you bring back the David Little and the Doc Luckley and Galloway, they played as sophomores themselves. So they was right in the fire as sophomores. So it was, it was a lot of talent. The tide turned by the time we became seniors, and Florida State started getting those athletes.
The athletes.
And then Miami started getting a few of them.
Yes.
And players was going from state to, different states to state to play in the state of Florida, but Florida State started getting them. And that's when everything changed for both teams.
Well, Coach Bowden was a different kind of guy. When it came to recruiting, he knew how to recruit. And when he came in there and started recruiting, things changed. And, everybody loved that man. He was hard to dislike. And so even the mamas, the way he recruited in the homes, man, every mama liked Bobby Bowden because, Bobby Bowden, Terry, he was a country boy. So when he come into the black home, and mama cooking greens and chitlins and mac and cheese and yams, he gonna sit at that table and he gonna eat just like he belonged at the table. And so he was good at that. And also he would promise parents this, and he meant it, that he was gonna treat their kid like they were his own son. And to his word, that's the kind of coach he was. And so it turned. We started to recruit better players, and that history is that history. But so in 1978, you get drafted by the 49ers and you go out to the West Coast. Now, when you get out there as a rookie, they have Freddie Solomon, who played at the University of Tampa, right? And so he was a homeboy, so to speak, right? So how was that when you got out there? What was that experience like? You in the league now, and you're playing on Sundays now. What was that like for you in the beginning?
Well, when I first got in the league, when I got drafted, not like they do now. You sit around and you celebrate. I was out playing basketball with the boys when they had to come get me and say, "Hey, man, the 49ers just drafted you, and they need to talk to you on the phone." And so when I went to San Francisco, I didn't know anything but one thing. I took everything I owned, and I learned that from the guys from Jacksonville. The older crew. They say, "Hey, when you get drafted, Lecount, make sure they know you're ready." So I took everything I owned. I never forget it. I'm walking down the hall, and a couple of veterans go, "Hey, rookie, man, you got a lot of bags." And I turned around and I said, "Yeah, because I plan on being here."
Yeah, I plan to stay. There you go.
Yeah, I plan on being here.
There you go.
Now the other thing, Bob, is it's a couple of things that can happen to you. You go and you get on the field and you all of a sudden you see the guy that you saw on TV, and now you see him in person.
Right, exactly.
Now you do one or two things. You do one or two things. You go like you become in awe of him,
like that,
or you watch him and you go, "Man, I can do that.
I can do that."
And that's what I did.
There you go.
I can do that. I saw guys. I saw the great Gene Washington. I saw Jim Plunkett. Freddie Solomon brought me to the side because we can relate because he was a quarterback. So now we're a receiver. So he's helping me. He's helping me out a little bit. Joe Montana wasn't there yet. Steve the Bird was there, and I'm the starting wide receiver my rookie year.
Your rookie year. Wow.
My rookie year, the third game of the season, I'm leading all rookies because ain't no rookies playing.
Right, exactly.
And I'm leading I'm leading all rookies in receiving.
That's amazing.
And I break my wrist.
Oh wow. Okay.
I break my wrist, and I'm out my rookie year.
Oh
so
man.
I come back the next year in '79, and Bill Walsh is the coach.
Oh wow. Okay.
And Joe Montana comes in town.
All right.
And Dwight Clark is there.
Yeah.
And so now I'm around a person that understands offense. And so I'm playing with at that time wasn't a great Bill Walsh. He was Bill
Right.
Walsh.
He was Bill Walsh.
I learned a lot from him.
Uh-huh.
And I had Joe Montana.
Wow.
And
Man.
4 games into the season, and they called me off the field, and he says, "Hey, we're gonna send you through the waiver wire." And I go, "Okay." He said, "We're gonna send you through the waiver wire. Ain't nobody gonna touch you because a lot of people don't know who you are yet."
Right. Okay.
And I go upstairs, and I'm on the waiver wire for 15 minutes. Then he comes back. He says, "Who do you know? Who do you know in the league? You just got here."
Right.
Well, the crew that recruited me, that drafted me in 7-8, they all got fired, and my head coach, Les Steckel, at that time, went to Minnesota. That's how I got to Minnesota. So that's how I got to Minnesota. Wow. So my mind is Florida, San Francisco. Man, I'm playing in this cold weather. I'll be playing this cold weather. I was so mad. It took me about a good month to figure it out. But I realized I'm still playing. And my coach comes in, Les Steckel, and he tells Bud Grant, he said, "Hey, we gotta keep this guy because he can be our 3rd receiver." And that's how we started the 3 receiver offense with Tommy Kramer, Ahmad Rashad, and Sammy White.
And Sammy White. That's right.
That's how it all started.
Wow. Well,
because San Diego was already doing it.
Right. Exactly. So you
San Diego was already doing it.
You know what's amazing? So let's fast forward to my rookie year in the league in '81. And we played you guys in Minnesota at the Met in preseason. It was a preseason game.
Okay.
And I'm outside, the weather wasn't a problem, but both benches were on the same sideline. Right.
Yeah. Right.
So I never experienced that before, how players would cross each other going to the bench. That was a whole nother thing, right?
Whole nother thing, man. And it got worse. It got worse if you was there in December, because if you was on the bench in December, you had the heaters, and we didn't have a heater.
You didn't have heaters. What?
See, we couldn't wear gloves. The long sleeve that you saw us wear, we had to ask permission to wear that.
Wow.
From Bud Grant. So most of the time, we look at the schedule. This is what we do. We look at the schedule, Bob, and we go like, "Oh man, we got Atlanta in December. We got New Orleans in December. We got LA Rams in December. We're gonna win these games because it's gonna be cold.
We can check those already. That's right.
It's gonna be cold. They're gonna be worrying about the weather.
They're gonna be worried about the weather.
And that's how we looked at the month of December.
Hey Terry, I'll never forget. It was my 5th year, and we're playing Chicago at Soldier Field, and that's the year they won the Super Bowl.
Oh,
brother,
okay.
It was 20 below with the wind chill.
Right.
And man, you know what? It's the only time in the game where I didn't care. It was like, we just need to get this over with. Let's just get this over with and get in the locker room, man. Because
get this over with. And Bud, he taught me, and he taught many other players. It's a little signal that you do. Again, we didn't have gloves, so he'll have me spit in my hand. And when I spit in my hand, I'll rub it enough because your hand's already cold. Then your hands become warm.
Okay.
They become warm because of the saliva. And so he taught me how to do that. But boy, I'm telling you, man, if I wasn't playing like on special teams,
right,
and a part of the offense,
yeah.
I'd have been one of those guys that been real bitter because I wasn't in the game a lot, but I was in the game a lot, so it made a big difference.
It made a big difference, man. It made a big difference. But I tell you, man, I'm telling you, I was so thankful though. By the second time I played in Minnesota, it was in 1982 in a playoff game. Y'all beat us, and y'all were inside. Thank God for that, right?
We was inside. We
were inside, and thank God for that. And so I always wondered, even to this day, why Green Bay don't have a dome and why New England don't have a dome, right? But it's an advantage. It's an advantage.
Green Bay, Chicago is never going to have one. And
Right.
you just hit it on the jackpot. It's an advantage. They're going to keep it that way. Now,
Absolutely.
the funny thing about it, it's a lot of my buddies that play with me from
Mhm.
Florida.
Mhm.
No, from Florida.
Okay.
They still live in Minnesota.
Really?
And the reason they stay there, they
Mhm.
make their money up there.
Oh, yeah,
They make
absolutely.
easy money.
Absolutely.
They make,
That's right.
Minnesota, they really, the fan base,
Mhm.
the corporations, they
Mhm.
really take care of
Take
them.
care of
They
'em.
just
Yeah.
they're constantly making money. Now, me
Oh,
and
wow.
you, if we come back to our hometown,
Mhm.
especially like Jacksonville, Jacksonville's not going to do anything for
Right,
Terry
right,
Lecount.
right, right.
I know if they ain't doing nothing for Bob Hayes, they're not going to do nothing for me. So
Okay.
a lot of
Right.
times they stay in them cities, man, and they stay in them cities for a reason.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It makes sense, and it's all about business too. I
Right? They
look
get
at
a lot of business.
right. They get a lot of business, man. But man, I tell you, it was an honor to compete against you, and I remember playing against you in Atlanta on Monday night. Um, Ahmad Rashad. I remember Ahmad Rashad. Hey, now was he the coolest guy? Rashad, he be chewing that gum. He's not emotional. He don't say anything to you. If you say something to him, he just look
Right.
at you. He chew that
Yeah.
gum and go to work on you.
Yeah.
He was the ultimate pro.
Ahmad was uh, uh, he was a real pro.
Yeah, he
We
was a
don't,
real pro.
you have a few of them in the league now. You
Hmm.
don't have that many of them now, but you got a few of them in the league. Uh, I heard Jerry Rice was kind of a real pro. You know what I
He was a
mean?
real pro, and so he was in our
Uh,
division. We played him all the time. He was a real
so
pro.
Ahmad was a real classy
Hmm.
pro kind of guy. Sammy
Yes.
White, if Sammy called me right now and
Hmm.
said he was going to Minnesota
Hmm.
and he wanted me to be there, I
Hmm.
get on the plane.
Wow. That's
Sammy was real quiet. He was
right.
real quiet, but he
Okay.
liked me.
Right.
And
That's good. That's good.
anytime we have alumni, he was always, "Hey, Lecount, you coming?"
You
And I
coming,
go,
man?
most of the times I wasn't gonna be coming. That's it. I
Wow.
come for Sammy.
Wow. That's
That's the
awesome.
kind of relationship we had.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna ask you about another one of your teammates. He was a special guy, and he was a great athlete. Tell me about your punter, Mr. Coleman.
Um, he's not my teammate. He's not really my teammate, man. He's been um he's bigger than life. Me and
Yes.
Greg grew up
Right.
from the age of 7.
Wow.
We was on the very first Pop Warner team that wasn't allowed to play in the Gator Bowl because we was black. They
Wow.
didn't let us play because we
Wow.
was black. We
Mm,
won the championship, and they said if you won the championship, you play in the Gator Bowl.
mm,
So he was on the Pop Warner team. He
mm.
was my baseball captain. He was a catcher, so I played baseball with him for 3 years. Then
Yes.
we go to different junior high schools. We're
Hmm.
not playing sports at that time. We're just kind of
Hmm.
playing the park. Then
Right.
he go to Rains High School. I go to Rains High School. He's my captain. He's a defensive end and the
What?
place kicker.
Wow.
He's a defensive end and the place
That's
kicker
kicker.
for the football team.
Wow.
He's an all-state hurdler.
What?
He won the state. Yes, he won the state in the 120 hurdles. So
Wow.
he had it going on.
Yes. He,
Then he goes and what most people don't know,
hmm.
he's not gonna get credit for this,
Hmm.
but when he was at FAM,
Hmm.
his punting coach told him in order for him to actually get in the league,
Hmm.
he needed to know how to punt the ball in the corner.
Okay.
And he mastered the
Wow.
coffin corner. That's
Wow.
how Bud Grant picked him up.
Upper Grand kicked it
Because
right.
he get drafted by Cleveland
Right.
and he stays there, I think about a year,
Hmm.
and they pick him up in Minnesota.
Mm.
And
Rest in
then
peace.
once he gets into Minnesota, the next following year, I come aboard, and now I'm playing
Wow.
with my neighborhood
Man.
friend forever, and we played together 9 years.
Well, see, that's what I'm talking about because, see, Jacksonville is a special place, man. A lot of people don't know. They just don't know, because when I look at the state of Florida, I always brag about our state. I always do. And I always brag about South Florida. But then when I
Right.
tell people, I say, look, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, it's not just South Florida.
Right.
It's Jacksonville.
Yeah.
It's Tallahassee. It's
Yeah.
Pensacola. It's
Right.
Tampa. It's everywhere in the state, man, where you're gonna find these great stories of all these great athletes that come from the state of Florida. And it's amazing, man. It's just amazing. The talent,
It's a lot of, yeah.
man, it's just a lot of them, man. It's just a
It's
lot.
it's a but see Bobby, it's you brought out cities, but I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. It's a
Mhm.
lot in the neighborhood.
Of
See,
course.
I'm
Of
I'm
course.
I'm on the northwest side of town.
Right.
All those guys you're talking about,
Uh-huh.
they're on one side of town.
They're
That's
on one
just
side of
one
town.
side. They're in
Wow.
Jacksonville, but
Right, right.
they're on one side.
They're on one side
You go to
of town.
Tampa,
Right.
you go to Tampa Pete, you see them. You
Right.
go to Pensacola, same thing.
Same
They're on
thing.
one side of town. They're not spread it out. They on one side
Right.
of
They're on
town.
one side of town. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I tell you, but it's a strong history, and it's
Yes.
a lot of tradition there. And so I always tip my hat off to the city of Jacksonville because you guys got something special up there. Like some people say, it must be in the water. It must be in the
Yeah.
water because year in and
Yeah.
year out, they're guys like. See, I'm of the age, like I forget about Brian Dawkins. I forget about him, and he's one of the greatest safeties of all time, NFL, right?
Yeah.
And
He's I'm gonna talk about Brian Dawkins. I watched Brian Dawkins' whole career.
wow.
And one thing that I like about Brian Dawkins is I'm going to relay this information like I did about Ahmad.
Mm-hmm.
The whole time he played, he was a class act guy.
Yes, he was.
He was never a nasty ball player.
Right.
He
That's
was
right.
a hard-nosed football player. But he was clean.
Right.
He was clean.
Right.
And that's what I respect about him. When
Right.
I watched him play,
Mm-hmm.
my homeboy played hard, but he played clean.
He played clean.
Never played dirty. You get some ball, never played dirty.
Yeah, but he played the game right. There's
He
a right
played
way
the
to
game
play
right.
Right. It's the right way to play the game.
Right.
And I tell you, he was a class act, and what a great career, man. What a great career.
Yeah. Awesome career.
Yeah. So man, hey, listen, man, we got to chop it up again, man. We got a lot to talk about, and we got a lot to talk about, and you and I need to get together in person, away from the show, and just have this fellowship a little bit, because we're right here in this great city together, right?
We can do that. That's not even a problem. We're gonna make sure that's happening.
We're gonna make sure that happens, right? Because Terry, when you were down at the College Hall of Fame, I was always trying to get down there. I said, I gotta go see Terry. I knew you was there because everybody was telling me, man, Terry. I said, man, I gotta get down there to see him, man. And then next thing you know, you retired, right? So, well, that's okay. So I caught up with you anyway, and man, it's an honor to have you on. I want to just let you know, I've always respected you. I always looked up to you because you were ahead of me, and the things that you were doing, you reminded me so much of myself when I was younger. And we both had to switch positions, and thank God that we were both athletic enough to play other positions. Because I'm gonna tell you, man, when I was in high school, I played safety on defense, and I played with a guy who played corner, and he was so good. And I used to say, man, I will never be able to do that. One of my teammates in high school. And I said, man, I would never be able to do that. And then I go to Florida State, and they put me out there, and the rest is history, man. The rest is history. And so, so yeah, man, I really respect you, and never forgot you over the years. In the days when I saw you wearing that number 7, coming to the line of scrimmage, looking good, looking like a pro. Oh, look at that cat right there, man. And then the track legend that always followed you, man. And I was like, man, this guy's a special dude. And then I remember playing against you in the league, and what kind of player you was. And I've always respected you, and I'm so thankful that you came on the show, brother. So thankful.
It was my pleasure, man, to be here. It really was my pleasure. So when you called and said, "Hey, let's do it," I was disappointed I couldn't do it the other day. I
That's
was I
okay.
was on spending little. I told my wife, "You gotta make sure we're gonna be back this time because I need to do this with Bobby."
Hey man, I'm thankful, man. I appreciate you, man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show tonight. If you like the show, comment and share with your friends. I'm your host, Bobby Butler, on our Legend segment. And tonight, we had the great Terry Lecount with us. Terry, thank you so much again for being with us tonight.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.